Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here with you, and I'm so extremely happy to have my best friend Sarah with me. I swear, I am so lucky to have such amazing, powerful women as friends, and you being one of them, Sarah. Wow. As some of you who have read what I wrote about Sarah, we go back very far to our time in New York City. Sarah produced a play that I was in. And then we came to LA together. We traveled to India. We have been in each other's lives fully, and all along helping and supporting each other to heal our relationship with our bodies.
Yeah.
And just very openly and honestly letting you know that if I'm having something that's like present for me, I'm talking to Sarah about it. She's my go-to.
Yeah.
She's the only one that gets it. And she's the only one that I feel really safe and comfortable to say, hey, I have this little thing happening. Help me through it. Oh, and Sarah, I wanted to share this little story with them. I thought of it this morning. I was thinking about how a little while ago you said to me, oh, I can remember you when you're in that play. You had your perfect little food and your perfect little body. Yeah, because I was
I had these like Tupperwares of like vegetables, and they were perfect and measured. And I'd be there with like a bagel.
That's how I visualized it. I remember thinking, she's just eating a bagel and feeling okay about it. Meanwhile, I was so in restriction and so uncomfortable in my body, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's real.
It's real. Yeah, we think we know. So Sarah is a yoga teacher, a very influential yoga teacher in Ashland, and she's worked at an eating disorder rehab in LA. And one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to Sarah about it is she gets it. She gets it on like a deep connection to body. She has shared things with me that I'm like, oh, how interesting, just around the body. And just even when I was thinking about having you on here, I was like, oh, I didn't know that you thought that way about exercise. Especially because you're doing yoga all the time and teaching people and all of that. Maybe in a little bit of a nutshell or whatever is present right now, because I know so many different parts of our stories come up. What part of your story or what can you share about your relationship with your body and your food in the past?
Sure. Like you mentioned in the description for this interview, we share a history of eating disorder and healing an eating disorder, as well as exercise, bulimia. And for that compulsive exercise addict that I profoundly relate with, after our discussion, I really had to stop. And I hadn't really processed this quite so deeply in a way that I could actually put words to it. The difference between really indulging in the movement of your body and the capacity of your body and the boundaries of your body versus that addiction to exercise. And I really studied what that bite-sized piece for those who are struggling, what that actually looks like, feels like, the difference between the addiction and the compulsion to exercise versus the experience of really indulging in your body's capacity. And I've worked with lots of people who have shared this, but I could say for my personal experience, when I was in my addiction, when I was really in it, I would say that the exercise that I was doing and all of the self-destructive patterns that I was doing were all in an effort to give the pain a location, was to give it a physical location. Because I am someone that needs something physical to grab onto. And the real pain that I was in was invisible. The heart pain that I was in didn't have a location, but through this compulsive self-doubt, deprivation of pleasure, I could give that pain a location. And if I could locate it, I could identify as it. And if I could locate it, maybe I could even disappear. It was like this effort to disappear into the pain and locate it. The other side of that, and for me, the healing had to be with the body. It wasn't like I could just take my physical body, take the exercise, put it out of the equation, heal my head, and then get back to it. It had to happen together. And so when I say things like, oh, I hate exercise, what I hate is that idea that when you see them all the time pop up, all these super fix this and tone this in this many days. And it's all starting from the starting point that we're not good enough where we are. We have to start with self-doubt in order to get to where this person thinks I should be or where my ego thinks I should be. Mindful movement practices, and for me, it's been yoga, but yoga is not the only one. Asana practice is not the only way. It's the complete opposite of that coin. It's how can I give pleasure? How can I find this pleasure in my body and give that a physical location? From the outside, it could look the same. It could be that I'm really cooking through a vinyasa practice and I got sweat going. Or it could be that I'm doing some work on my core, whatever the particular movement is. It may look the same from the outside, but the intention behind it, the attitude of discovery and curiosity and pleasure is so different than that abrasive doubt, this is not enough, I got to do more, it's never enough attitude towards exercise. So that's it in a nutshell.
What I love about this is even if you're addicted to exercise, like I have been and you have been, but even if you don't like exercise, right? So there's the extreme here that we're talking about. And this is what I love that you're sharing is the need for it, the desire, the addiction to it, and then the deep hate of it. So you're addressing two major issues, which is how do we begin to have a different relationship with exercise when we don't like it. And what you're talking about and what you just said, Sarah, you pinpointed for people, I think. I don't know if that's what you all are feeling out there, but for those who don't like exercise, it could be because intuitively your body's, I ain't moving this way. I don't want to move from this way. I don't want to be in self-doubt. It doesn't feel good. Like you're coming to it with self-doubt. And so your body's, I don't want to do that. But it's because you don't want to do the self-doubt. You may actually want to still do the movement. So it's separating those two things. What do you have to say about that?
I think when we're coming in, and why yoga works so well for me is that it asks us to subtract first. So first we subtract our belief systems about our bodies or what we should and shouldn't do. We subtract where we feel we should be physically right at this moment, and we arrive in present time. I never set out, I move my body regularly, but I never set out with the intention of exercise. I set out with the intention of discovery. Like, this is my laboratory. Where am I at right now? It could have been different at 9 a.m. It could be different again at 6 p.m. But where am I right now at 2:15 p.m. right now? And so we start by subtracting the noise, we subtract the expectations, and we arrive where we are. Where we go from there is then more discovery and more curiosity. And it's often playful. It's often not what I was planning to do. But as far as what you said about not liking exercise, it's uncomfortable, isn't it? Let's be specific. So building muscle, for example, it's not pleasant. It's uncomfortable. And so for me, it's not so much about how can I bear through the discomfort, but rather how can I take myself to the edge of discomfort and stay present with it and name it. Name the discomfort. This is uncomfortable and I'm in it and I'm at my edge. Okay, so if I'm at my edge, where do I breathe? If I'm at my edge, how can I then relate to others at their edge? So it deepens the compassion. It deepens our empathy when we take ourselves to that edge. It's not for every moment of every day. It's probably not for every movement session. But I feel like for a lot of us, the resistance to discomfort creates this identifying, I hate exercise. But I know that's where I was for a long, my resistance was because I knew at some point it was going to be uncomfortable. And it is, it's uncomfortable. We got to, get through some of the muscle tone. We got to shed through some of the muscle tissue in order for it to grow. And I keep coming back to, it's a different sort of attitude that we have with our body when we allow ourselves to get into that discomfort and really be with it, rather than try to blast through it just for the sake of some external satisfaction of, oh, look, now my muscle looks like this, or now my weight is this. I'm going around in a circle.
One of the things that feels so powerful is last month we did a thing on self-care. And the importance of that is that when we're taking care of ourselves, we're taking care of our emotions, the food can even itself out. So what I'm saying is we're using the idea of the yoga mat, like you're using the idea of using the body as a vehicle to hold high intention, high intensity, hold the feeling of discomfort and allow a safe place for it. So the body becomes primed to, wow, this feels really uncomfortable. And I'm just going to breathe through it. I'm going to be with it. And it's training the body then to not be compulsive. I can feel that so intensity. I can feel the like compulsiveness in me as we're talking about it, of like, but like to be in that and to stay with that. And it's the same thing. Okay, I know how to do this. This is my training. So it's flipping the idea of exercise on its head and saying, I'm actually doing this for my life. I'm learning through maybe holding this pose or doing whatever mindful movement practice it is to be able to hold intensity without fixing it.
Yeah, it is practice. It takes practice to be in discomfort and stay with it, to stay compassionate, to stay in self-love while you're in a state of discomfort. I think the body is just one of our, only one, but one of our main tools that we have to practice that. Because life out there gets uncomfortable. Conversations with people that you don't want to have is uncomfortable. We get into all sorts of uncomfortable situations. And I think it's telling, like I can always tell the way that I might snap off at, I'm not going to name any names, but the way that I might snap off at someone, it's, whoa, that's okay. That's where I need to work. But going through those times of discomfort in your physical practice, I feel like that's training to be out in our world and uncomfortable and stay poised and connected to our truth while we're in a state of discomfort.
Yeah. I
so
love
it's a laboratory.
Right. It's a laboratory. I love that. I'm totally going to steal that from you. I can do that.
You probably stole it from someone. Yeah. I may have stolen it from you.
When we were having a conversation about this, you were talking about the black and whiteness of exercise. And I've really been doing my best to support people to not be so black and white with it and to find other ways around it. But it's interesting to hear you talk about it because there is a black and whiteness with the, I'm not moving my body like this. That's not how I'm going to do it. And there is allowing ourselves to move. Okay, so today I woke up, I had a client at 8, I dropped Aspen off at theater, I came back, I'm doing this with you, I have clients afterwards. So I'm not having my movement routine. I came home and outside I set my timer for 11 minutes and I moved my body. I danced, I shook, I got myself in my body because to me that is so important. I know what it feels like when I'm not in my body. And that is something that has just been such a priority for me. And I think there are these moments where we can not feel that I'm exercising. And I think it has something to do with calories. I didn't do that to burn calories. I did that to actually get into my body.
Sure. Yeah. I think for me that the black and white thinking around exercise has to do with, like what you were saying, any body movement. To me, the intention is to get into my body, however my mind body is in that moment. What I think of as like the black and white thinking around exercises is I signed up for this 30-minute challenge exercise and I'm going to do that 30 minutes a day, no matter what. And it's no wonder to me that those challenges and all that black and white, like you do this, it's mathematics, it's this, you treat your body like a machine. It's no wonder to me why people burn out doing those, or they start out with this like honeymoon phase and then it fizzles out. It's not authentic. It's not authentic to where you're actually at. And often it does the opposite of putting you in your body. It really throws you to a place of, if I don't get this done, I'm a failure, which is so far from the truth. And it's pretty rude.
Creating disconnection. It's just like dieting. It's like diets don't work and then we make ourselves wrong for it. So it's creating disconnection in your body and then blaming yourself for not liking it. You recently, and we don't have to go into the whole thing around some of the health stuff that you have going on, but you have been rebuilding your strength after having an injury. Yeah. And I think that's really important to talk about because first off, when you do those challenges, oftentimes you get hurt because you're not connected and then you have an excuse to stop exercising, right? So I just want to throw that in there. But when it comes to being connected to your body and rebuilding strength after an injury or after something has been present. How have you found that, and how have you been working with your body?
Yeah, just to give a little background, I mean, I've had surgeries, I've had children, I've had C-sections. I recently had a massive surgery in my abdominals to remove some things and straighten some things out. It took me down. Like can't lift more than 10 pounds, that kind of down, and for more than 2 months. So it was intense. This last one that happened this past, what was it? Oh, August. It was August.
Yeah.
It was on my birthday.
On your birthday, yeah.
My ovary was like, done. We did 40 years.
We're out.
No. So I went through many different places in my mind. Okay, I've done this before. I did a C-section. I recovered from a C-section. I know it's going to take this much time. This was different than any of those. I learned that this time around that this idea of recovery or rebuilding is like rebuilding strength from there is misleading. I was not going to go in reverse to where I was before that happened. And truthfully, after I gave birth to my children through 2 C-sections, I didn't really go back to where I was before that. I just start where I was and go from there. There was not a rebuilding because that was gone. I built new strength. And I can say after both of my children, I learned more about how magnificent my core, and not just these muscles, but the depth of my core, my intentions, my capacity to be a mom and a functioning woman in the world grew exponentially, but in a way that I could not have quite understood before that. So I wasn't really looking to reverse this time around. I was looking to start where I was and go from there. And I have to tell you, starting from total numbness, a set of abdominals and organs that were on a full system shutdown. So to start from there and build took a lot of time. And it was pain. There was that part of my head that was just like, okay, you got to get back to work. Come on, you haven't worked in 2 months. We got to get back. We got to get back. But I feel now, let's see, it's been, was that like 5 months now? I feel stronger than I was before that. I may not have the same control over specific areas of my muscles. There's a lot more building to work on from there if I choose to. I may not, but I do feel a lot stronger than I was before that happened. I have much more knowledge and understanding and empathy for some of my clients who have been through these kinds of surgeries and have been debilitated for a period of time. I have a much greater knowledge of how my being works, how my system works, how my digestion works. So I feel like I've learned so much from that it seems misleading to say I've recovered where I was before.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And what I love about it is presence. It's the presence. If you're hearing Sarah, she's talking about being present with our body, being with our body right here and now, and being in connection with it. So even as she's talking about the moments of, okay, I've got to go. And I remember you even calling me and being like, I am so over this. And I'm like, Sarah, you got to give yourself another get out of jail free card. Go lie down. And that intensity though, because it's like, that's your life force to give and to serve. So there's those feelings, those emotions where you had to sit through and work through, but being present with yourself. And what it reminds me of is that idea of get your body back. That false idea of when you get pregnant, you're going to get your body back. It's about the being present and connecting with ourselves in the here and now. That's what I'm hearing you say, Sarah, along this whole time is I'm exercising in the moment. I don't know what my body wants to do, but I'm here with her now. I'm listening. I'm connecting. I'm going into this laboratory of what my body needs. And yes, it feels uncomfortable. And yes, there's emotions and there's sadness around this. But this is really about what it feels like is like ripping away what society has said and throw it over there and being present with this inner guidance system.
Yeah. Screw what you're supposed to do.
And it's so important because people are looking for help with their bodies. They're looking for support to feel good in their bodies. And sometimes the choices are finding a fitness routine and doing it. And we're here with Sarah right now, and Sarah supports people with health with their body, and she's an option. She's the option to get your connection with your body through her yoga classes that she has online, through her privates, through her whole platform. And then if you're in Oregon, you can see her in person.
I'm doing classes in person now.
She's going to be starting a yoga center in Ashland. So yeah, I'm saying this because as we're looking out in the world and we're on our social media, it's really attracting to the people that have actually had the medicine that you need. And that's why Sarah is here with us right now, because she has a deeper understanding and wisdom with the body that we all are craving. We just don't know what we're craving, and we don't know how to get there. One of the things I also want to touch on as our last topic, you touched on it when you were talking about being pregnant, and then now you're in a different, you didn't go back to that same body. It's exercising at the different stages in our life.
Oh, yeah.
And not having the expectation on ourselves. It's like, I'm 47. My exercise looks different than it did when I was, 30. You just turned 40 next year. So what wisdom do you have for us around that?
Okay, so I'm in the 4 Club now too. I have to say, I think as far as maturing with our bodies and our bodies doing what they're going to do. I'm speaking of the episode I had this last summer. I'm in a chemically induced menopause right now. So I'm taking medication that's putting me into that state so that some other things can heal. And a lot comes with that. Everyone hears about hot flashes. It's so much more than that. It is emotional flashes. It's joints start changing. Our bodies are going to change. And I think my ability now to stay in the discomfort has deepened in a way that it wasn't. I didn't have the patience for this kind of thing in my 20s, but the ability to really stay in and dig in and find, where is my edge? Is that really my edge? I thought that was my edge. Is there somewhere else? And to stay with that in a place that's curious and compassionate and loving has definitely deepened. And I feel like that is part of age, my age. I also think about exercise and movement differently than I used to, in that this is a long-term commitment. Like my fitness goal, if I were to have one, would be to get really old. I want to get really old, like really old. I want to get so old, and I want to feel really good while I do it. And I want to feel great when I get there. And I want other people to feel good around me when I'm really old. And so for me, I can't go abusing myself at a gym if I'm expecting to get old and feel good. I can't be super restrictive with my food all the time if I'm expecting, if my intention, my goal is to feel good, because for me, that doesn't feel good. And now it's funny because we talk about feel good and discomfort in the same conversation. I would say feeling good isn't necessarily the only pleasure. Feeling good is also feeling sturdy and feeling strong and feeling grounded, feeling joyful. There's many different ways to describe good than pleasure. Pleasure is definitely part of that. But if I get to really old and I spent my life in doubt, I spent my self-esteem, I spent it all away on different sorts of fad exercises that I found through Instagram and Facebook and all these, and never really felt like I was getting anywhere, and restricting my food and not indulging in the things that bring me joy and the people who bring me joy, I'm not going to feel so good when I get there. So I think setting your intention, your fitness goals for the long haul really puts present time more in perspective.
Yes, I totally 100% relate to that. And I love that goal. Oh my gosh.
So I want the lines. I want the eyes, like the wise eyes. I want it all.
Right. I'm going to put all her information for you to follow her and take a class with her. Her classes are amazing. In her yoga classes, she does exactly what she's talking about here. She gets you into your body and you think it's going to be really easy. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm really in it. But it's like this beautiful dive into the body, and then these holding of the poses and moving and flowing in a way that's, you're really working yourself, but from the inside out and not from the head space. So totally a fan of Sarah's soul and Sarah Soul Yoga.
And if anybody wants to take some online classes, I do offer online classes if you're not in Oregon.
All right, everyone. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.